Hey everybody, Tony here again. We'll take up a few minutes of time and maybe occupy a few brain cells for the next couple of minutes while we talk about our topic proposals. First, I want to say this week is religion and reform, and all of us bring to the course what we bring to the course, and a lot of people in the course are very motivated by their faith and love of faith-based life. Um, Say that 5 times real fast when you have dentures. But anyway, and others don't. So in the discussions this week, just be respectful of that and try to keep in mind to be respectful of the people and things we're reading about this week. They were operating in a much different time with a much different view of the world and set of facts. So don't lean too harshly on them from a personal opinion standpoint. Remember, a couple of 100 years from now, different people with different sets of facts and different groups and different ways of looking at things are really going to judge us too for how we behave. In either case, it's people doing the best they can with the best information they have available to them, and just try to keep an open mind as you approach the topic, and of course, be respectful to each other in the discussion post, which has been happening this whole term. So, really proud of you for that, and let's just keep that up. Kind of on to the topic proposal now. It's a 500 to 700 word proposal. No real format for it, except stick to the matrix in the rubric. There's 4 areas you're going to be graded on. Clear communications is always there, and we should always communicate as professionals and write as professionals. I think that goes without saying. Everybody's been doing a pretty good job so far. The 3 areas of focus are the historical lenses, the historiography, and the analysis. Okay? A lot of students get hung up on the difference between exceeds expectations and meets expectations. And look, if you're just meeting expectations going down the rubric, you're going to get a high beat on this assignment. Okay? But to get to that next level of exceeds expectation, you have to bring in some other stuff and go a little bit deeper. So for historical lenses, tell me what lens you're going to use in your final essay. That's proficient. To get to exemplary, the rubric talks about showing your lenses and substantiated research, which means bringing in a couple of a quote or two, or a citation from this author used this lens and this is why. Kind of like, for example, for the social lens, I found author A who has said this, or author B who has said that, and this is how I'm going to apply it. That's what it takes to move on. And you're going to have a really solid thesis about it. And whether or not that's caught out in the rubric, it is super hard to lay out a topic and talk about the lenses you're going to do, talk about what the historiography looks like, and talk about the questions you're going to raise without some type of basic thesis. I don't expect the thesis to be perfect. I don't expect it to be well laid out. I do expect you to have one, because without that, you can't get into what the topic proposal has. So, really rough working thesis is super awesome right here. And yeah, that may sound obvious to a bunch of you, but it's not always obvious to everybody. So just I wanted to drop that in there. Um, as far as the historiography goes, your thesis needs to support that beyond the current thought with an original argument. And again, it might be I want to I'm examining the War of 1812 through a gender lens. Here's why. That's enough for right now. But you got to have that piece. You know, the thesis is really the basis of every historiographical essay. And then you get down to analysis, where we're talking about analysis linked appropriately to, or not, sorry, per the rubric, or meets expectations. An analysis that's linked to appropriately crafted questions that clearly frame the thesis. So you need to ask questions that don't ask, what did George Washington do in the Continental Congress? But why did he do it? What do historians say he did? Why did he do it? Don't talk about the number of Indians that were killed in the Indian Removal Act under Jackson. Those are facts. Those are easy to find. We know that. Look at what questions did historians ask and what were they thinking when they wrote about the Indian Removal Act. Remember, a historiographical essay is not about what happened. It's about what historians have said about what happened. So keep that in mind as you're doing your topic proposal, and I think you'll be fine. Of course, if you have any questions, I'm m.caldwell@snhu.edu. Shoot me an email, and we'll get together and see how we can work it out. Thanks for your attention.